The downpour washed away my love-struck delusions. Given a second chance, I chose to stock up on supplies with my sister and watch with a smile as my ex-boyfriend, Qiang Guangdan, and his family met their doom. After my boyfriend's mother and sister came to stay, the torrential rain lasted for 2 months, and floods swept through the entire city. We were trapped in the house. I waited on the three of them all by myself, yet they still found fault with me every single day. On the day the rescue team arrived, my boyfriend claimed there wasn't enough room in the inflatable boat and, along with them, pushed me off the building. Floodwaters 2 stories high crashed down on me, an overwhelming deluge rushed into my nose, and my consciousness began to fade. I woke with a start, the sensation of suffocating still lingering. I gasped for air. But my boyfriend, sitting at his computer, didn't notice my distress. He didn't even glance back at me. He got straight to the point. "You're awake? My mom and sister are coming over in a couple of days. Tidy up the spare bedroom for them." It was only then that I realized I had been reborn, back to the eve of the great storm. Just like in my past life, my boyfriend had decided to have his mother and sister over without even consulting me. I was, of course, unhappy just being informed of the decision, but for my boyfriend's sake, I accommodated them anyway. But in this life, I was done being a pushover. "Did you even ask for my opinion?" "I don't agree." Qiang Guangdan stared at me in disbelief. "What's gotten into you?" "That's my mother and my sister." In the past, whenever we disagreed, he would curse at me. And I, completely love-struck, would always give in just to avoid making him angry. This time, I wouldn't back down. "I don't want them to come. I pay for half the rent on this place, so I have half the say." For once, I didn't compromise and stood my ground firmly. Seeing that I refused to back down despite his displeasure, my boyfriend grew even more furious. "My mother worked so hard to raise me, and she just wants to stay with us for a little while. Have you no heart?" My boyfriend condemned me, as if I were responsible for his mother's hardships. His guilt-tripping no longer worked on me. I scoffed and retorted, "She's your mother, not mine. Her hardships are not my fault." "You're so quick to feel for your mother, but why the long face when my sister came to visit?" I had hit a nerve, and he was unable to argue back. All he could do was snort coldly. I knew he was giving me the silent treatment, hoping to force me into submission. I turned my face away as well, avoiding his gaze. In a huff, my boyfriend stomped off to the shower, taking his phone with him as if terrified I'd uncover his secrets. However, he had forgotten that his WeChat was still open on his computer. The computer screen was still lit, displaying his family's group chat. I had no intention of snooping, but the computer kept chiming with notifications. I glanced at the screen while plugging in my phone to charge, and I froze. "Qiang Guangdan's mother. Did you tell Hui? How did she react?" "Qiang Guangdan," I told her. "She's against it." "What right does she have to disagree? The man is the head of the household. It's not her place to have a say." "Qiang Guangdan's aunt. City girls have their own minds. They're not as easy to handle as us girls from the countryside." "Qiang Guangdan's uncle. Bullshit. All women should obey their men, no matter where they're from. If she won't listen, beat her until she does." "Qiang Guangdan. That's not a good idea. Her family is still in the picture." Qiang Guangdan's mother chimed in eagerly, "Then just get her pregnant. That way we can negotiate down the bride price." "Qiang Guangdan. I'd like to, but she's not willing." "What am I supposed to do?" "Just do it without protection then. Or secretly poke a hole in a condom." The rest of the messages were all centered on schemes to get me pregnant behind my back. I could never have imagined they would be in their family group chat, scheming in such a way to control me. They really were one and the same. I had thought Qiang Guangdan had suddenly become a terrible person, but it turned out he was a scumbag all along, just very good at hiding it from me. I'm a local city girl, and my boyfriend is from the countryside. We met in college. I never thought of him as any different from me, but he himself was deeply insecure. After graduation, he stayed in the city to work. When he first graduated, his salary was very low, and he had to pinch every penny just to afford rent. He said he wanted to see me the moment he opened his eyes, that he wanted to live with me. My heart ached for how hard he struggled to make money, so I moved out from living with my sister to split the rent with him. Little did I know that the compromises I made for love were, in his eyes, proof that I was easy to handle. I couldn't help but recall the situation in my past life when Qiang Guangdan's mother and sister were about to visit. To welcome them, he had me clean the entire house from top to bottom. After they arrived, I catered to their every need, serving them good food and drinks every day. At first, they treated me with a modicum of respect, but after the downpour, everything changed. Perhaps the storm made them think I was isolated and helpless, forced to rely on them, or perhaps it was simply a matter of time revealing their true colors. After the storm began, when we were trapped in the rental house, all the chores fell on my shoulders. I braved the heavy rain to fight with others for supplies. I cooked every meal and washed every dish. With the power out and no washing machine, I had to wash the clothes for the entire family of 4 by hand, one by one. But even so, they remained critical of everything I did. They complained that I failed to get fresh meat and vegetables, that my cooking tasted bad, and that the clothes I washed weren't clean enough. Basically, nothing I did was ever good enough for them. Even as the torrential rains continued for 2 months and our stockpiled supplies dwindled, they never stopped their nitpicking. Later, as food grew scarcer, they refused to do any work themselves, yet feared I would eat more than my share. They would always make me wait in the kitchen while Cheong Guangdan's mother brought over the ingredients. And so, I did all the work, yet always ate less than they did. When they ate 2 meals a day, I was allowed only 1. After 2 months of this ordeal, the rescue team finally arrived. They hugged each other, cheering in celebration. I, too, thought that this ordeal was finally over. But I never imagined that upon seeing only 3 spots left on the inflatable boat, they, fearing Cheong Guangdan would be left behind, would become so utterly depraved as to push me from the rooftop. In my final moments, I watched the 3 of them leave on the rescue boat, completely unscathed. I hated myself for being so blind as to fall for this man, and regretted even more having moved out to live with him. Since the power and internet went out, our rental apartment, cut off from the outside world, had become an isolated island. Until the moment I died, I never knew if my only sister was safe and sound without me by her side. Whoever wants to be their damn maid can go right ahead. I, for one, am done. A noise from the bathroom told me Cheong Guangdan had finished his shower and was about to come out. Snapping out of my thoughts, I quickly lay back down on the bed, pretending to be nonchalant. When he returned to the room and saw me coldly scrolling on my phone instead of trying to placate him, he seemed a little unsettled. Unwilling to stoop to placating me, yet not wanting to do the chores himself, he hesitated for a moment before deciding to offer me an olive branch. "I'm only doing this for your own good, you know," my boyfriend's voice said from above me. I frowned up at him. What kind of nonsense was that? Making me do all the work was for my own good? Although I didn't believe a word of his nonsense, I let him continue. I was curious to see just how he would spin this as being for my own good. My mom has always thought that you girls from City C are too delicate to handle any real work, so she doesn't have a very favorable impression of you. If you try to show her what you're capable of, she'll surely see you in a new light, which will make it easier for us to discuss marriage down the road. My boyfriend wore an expression of utmost sincerity, as if he were genuinely planning for our future together. This was his usual tactic. First, he'd tear me down, telling me I was wrong about this and no good at that, only to then claim that everything he asked of me was for my own good. I used to be foolish enough to believe he really meant well, but now, with my love-addled brain washed clean by the floodwaters, I could see everything with perfect clarity. I scoffed. "Your mom's right. I am a pampered girl from City C, not some maid who marries into your family to toil without complaint. My sister says a poor country boy like you has no future. Why don't you put on a little performance for us to prove her wrong?" Having hit a nerve, my boyfriend's face instantly flushed crimson. He had expected me to accept his olive branch and back down. His pride wounded and unable to retort, my boyfriend snarled, "You're impossible," before grabbing his pillow and blanket and storming off to the guest room. He did, however, forget to take his phone with him. I had just picked up his phone, but before I could do anything, an angry shout came from outside the door. "What do you think you're doing?" I flinched in shock, and before I could react, my boyfriend had snatched the phone from my hand. "Oui, where are your manners?" Cheong Guangdan demanded, immediately going on the offensive. I saw the guilt written all over his face. What, was he afraid I'd see that his whole family was plotting against me on his phone? After we parted on bad terms that day, I enjoyed a few days of peace. Cheong Guangdan didn't mention his mother and sister visiting again, but I knew him well enough to know he wouldn't just let it go. So over the next few days, I secretly moved my important belongings to my sister Wanwan's house and also managed to buy and install several pinhole cameras in discreet corners of our apartment. I was just waiting for his family to arrive, and then I would make my exit. I was eager to see how they would manage without their maid once the torrential rains hit. Sure enough, on the exact same day as in my past life, Cheong Guangdan's mother and sister arrived. Cheong Guangdan's plan was to present me with a fait accompli, forcing me to accept the situation. But when I saw his mother and sister show up, laden with bags, my face fell. Without a word of greeting, I turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind me. The door frame shuddered from the force of the slam. My reaction left them staring at one another in disbelief. Cheong Guangdan's expression soured, and his mother was so furious her hands began to shake. "Son, I told you these city women were trouble. What was that all about? Is that how she treats her future mother-in-law?" Giving me that look. Raised in a traditional family, Cheong Guangdan couldn't tolerate being defied by a woman. But he was rational enough to know he wouldn't find anyone with better prospects than me, so despite his anger, his silence lasted only a moment. "I'll go talk to her." "Mom, you and sis can put your bags in that room for now," he said, pointing them toward the spare bedroom. Then, he hurried out the door after me. Spotting me by the elevators, he immediately confronted me. "Oui, my mom is here." What was that attitude all about? I glanced up at him, my tone tepid. "The attitude I have toward your mother is the same one you have toward me." My words thoroughly enraged him, but mindful of the onlookers near the elevator, he didn't dare make a scene. I asked calmly, "Am I wrong? Have you ever shown me any respect?" Cheong Guangdan grew agitated and lowered his voice. "It seems I've been too good to you, and you've let it go to your head. Look around. Is this any way to treat your future mother-in-law?" Cheong Guangdan didn't think he was at fault at all. Instead, he shifted all the blame onto me. I sneered, my face filled with contempt. "What makes you so sure I'll marry you? Is it because you poked holes in all the condoms?" Having hit a nerve, Cheong Guangdan flew into a rage, raising his hand to strike me. I beat him to it, landing a heavy slap across his face. The crisp sound echoed through the hallway. Not expecting me to hit him, Cheong Guangdan froze, completely stunned. I roared at him, "You think you can lay a hand on me? To hell with you. We're over, you absolute moron." Just as I finished speaking, the elevator arrived. I stepped inside without hesitation and pressed the floor button in one fluid motion. Even as the elevator doors closed, Cheong Guangdan made no move to follow. Only then did I let out a sigh of relief. After leaving the rental apartment, I immediately called for a car. The car pulled up to the gate of my residential complex. Just as I got out of the car, I saw my younger sister, Wan, waiting at the gate. She took my hand and said, "Did you really break up with Cheong Guangdan this time?" I smiled and nodded. "Good. My sister deserves so much better." My sister's wholehearted approval warmed my heart. Truly, family is the only safe harbor. Back home, Wan happily put her culinary skills on full display, preparing a sumptuous feast for me. As I ate the lavish meal, I was reminded of my past life, of the days I slaved away for Cheong Guangdan and his ungrateful family. I was such a fool, throwing away a perfectly good life just to bend over backwards for them. Wan kept piling food onto my plate, and, before long, I was full and set down my chopsticks. I asked Wan how the task I had mentioned to her earlier was progressing. The last time I was back to drop things off, I had told Wan that the torrential rains would last for 2 months. I had expected her to be skeptical and was already trying to think of a plausible reason to convince her. To my surprise, Wan looked at me seriously and said, "In that case, we must prepare early. If the downpour lasts for 2 months, it'll probably be difficult to buy supplies." I was surprised that she believed me without me having to say anything more. "Well, you were so dead set on being with Cheong Guangdan before, and now you've suddenly decided to break up. Something major must have happened." Wan had never liked Cheong Guangdan, thinking he was a bad sort. I used to think her dislike was just prejudice from not knowing him well enough, but it turned out I was the one who had been blind all along. After dinner, Wan led me to where she had stored the supplies. For staples, she had bought 10 cases of instant noodles, 3 cases of instant hot pot, 3 large bags of rice, and 2 large jugs of cooking oil. For snacks, we had bought my favorites: spicy konjac strips, quail eggs, pickled chili chicken bones, and tiger skin chicken feet, along with various dried vegetables, dried fruits, and an assortment of sweet and savory crackers, filling 3 large boxes. For drinks, we had 2 cases each of cola, assorted teas, coffee, and alcohol, plus 5 cases of bottled water and 20 large water cooler jugs. In addition, we bought several pounds each of frozen items like chicken wings, ribs, whole chickens, beef balls, and fish skin dumplings, packing the freezer to the brim. Seeing all these supplies, I could only imagine how much hard work it must have been for Wan. The common medicines I ordered online had also arrived: montmorillonite powder, ibuprofen, paracetamol, lianhua qingwen capsules, shaochaihu granules, and huaxiang zhangqi liquid. Considering the rain would last for 2 consecutive months, we knew the humidity would be intense. So, Wan and I went out and bought 3 dehumidifiers and a good supply of herbal tea packets for dispelling dampness. Fortunately, our region experiences a heavy humid season every year, so our washing machine already had a built-in drying function. But fearing there might be power and water cuts, we also bought a generator. In case the water supply was cut off entirely, we also installed a water purification system. Even if the water supply was completely cut, we could survive for some time by filtering rainwater. As for perishable fruits like mangoes and peaches, we only bought about a pound of each. However, we stocked up on fruits and vegetables with a long shelf life, such as sweet potatoes, corn, apples, and pears. We also made a point of buying refrigerated items like duck necks and crayfish with the latest possible production dates. Worried that eating so well without exercise would be unhealthy, we even bought a treadmill to ensure we could stay active. Once the physical provisions were secured, it was time to stock up on nourishment for the mind. The 30 power banks, 10 tablets, and 2 laptops I had ordered online all arrived. Wanwan and I set aside time to download dozens of shows perfect for watching while eating, and we also installed several timeless single-player games on the laptops. After sorting all that out, we rushed all over the city without a break to purchase self-defense items like pepper spray and stun guns. Remembering we still needed to buy essential sanitary pads, we made another trip to the supermarket. Our front door was a steel alloy security door, with a second, thick wooden door behind it. We also installed security bars on the windows, making sure to leave an emergency exit, which raised our safety level exponentially. After all was said and done, we collapsed onto the sofa, panting with exhaustion. We'd been too busy to cook for the past few days, and since we knew we wouldn't be able to order takeout for the next 2 months, we'd been eating out or ordering in every single day. After the meal, I wiped the grease from my mouth and let out a contented burp. With a tremendous crash, a bolt of lightning split the sky, which had been dry for so long. It began to rain. At first, no one paid it any mind, assuming that, like every year before, it wouldn't last long. And so, people went to work and school as usual, and public venues and services operated without interruption. Seizing the opportunity, Wanwan and I decided to go out for one last shopping spree. I hadn't reached out to Guangdong at all during this period. He should have realized by now that I was serious about the breakup. Perhaps he just wasn't used to not having me, his caretaker, around anymore. One day, as I was heading home alone, I saw him standing downstairs from my apartment. I silently cursed my bad luck and was about to walk around him to get home. However, Guangdong's sharp eyes spotted me, and he walked straight over. "Wee, are you breaking up with me just to get back at me for letting my mom move in without your permission? Wee, you do still care about me, don't you?" How had I never realized how shameless he was? And yet, I couldn't tell him about the continuous torrential rain that was to come. All I could do was roll my eyes at him. "You're reading too much into it. I used to put up with everything from your family because I loved you. Now I've seen through it all and I don't love you anymore, which is why I want to break up." My words were like adding fuel to the fire. He flew into a frenzy, grabbing me and refusing to let go. I tried to struggle, but his hands held me in a vice-like grip. In the midst of our struggle, I suddenly heard a familiar, angry shout. "What are you doing? Let go of my sister." Wanwan roared, immediately dropping what she was holding and rushing over. Wanwan had never liked him. She had only held her tongue before for my sake. When I was 15, our parents died in an accident, leaving me with my sister, who is 5 minutes my junior. Because she was often bullied at school, Wanwan had learned women's self-defense and could easily handle 3 to 5 boys at once. This time, she held nothing back, and her blows were much heavier. The frail, scholarly Guangdong was no match for her at all and, after taking a beating, turned and fled. "Let me tell you, don't you dare come pestering my sister again, or I'll beat you up every single time I see you." Guangdong fled without daring to look back. But knowing him, I was sure this wouldn't be the last time. The torrential rain had been falling for half a month, pushing the city's drainage system to its limits, and the river's water level had reached a dangerous tipping point. Soon, the river would flood back into the city, and only then would everyone realize there was something unnatural about this rain. After the initial panic would come the widespread rush to hoard supplies. In my past life, I had braved the downpour alone to scramble for supplies for them. I went through great trouble to buy instant noodles and self-heating meals, only to be met with their scorn. They felt that by getting nothing but instant food, I was making them suffer. But they had no idea that I had scoured the entire city just to find that much. In this life, without me to act as their caretaker, I wondered how many supplies they would manage to get their hands on. As the downpour continued, the water on the streets grew deeper and deeper. At first, there were only puddles of varying sizes on the roads. But then the gutters filled, the streams filled, the river channels filled, and finally, the river itself was full. The water level gradually rose from the pavement to cover our ankles, then our calves. It wasn't until the floodwaters rose past pedestrians' thighs that companies issued emergency notices for everyone to work from home. Even the most diligent delivery drivers heeded the calls to stop working, and getting takeout was no longer an option. So we simply shut our gate. After all, we had plenty of food, and more than enough to nourish our minds as well. Out of sheer boredom, I turned on my computer and connected to the camera at his place. I saw Guangdong's mother at home, complaining. "Son, I've been to all the nearby supermarkets, but I couldn't buy a thing. Why don't you go find that city girl? She's a local. She must know how to get supplies." Qiang Guangdan replied, I want to, but her sister won't let me see her. She said she'd beat me up every time, and honestly, I can't win against her. Another 3 days passed. That day at breakfast, I turned on the monitor on a whim and saw that they had food. Curious about where the food came from, I reviewed the surveillance footage from the previous 2 days. I never expected it, but their shamelessness reached a whole new level. Mom, that young girl next door is home. If we don't get food soon, your son is going to starve. Why don't you get her to find someone to help? What kind of help could a little country bumpkin like her find? I'll ask in the group chats. She's so young, there must be a man out there who'd be willing to donate supplies to keep her from starving. Watching this, I felt as if I had been struck by lightning. What shocked me was that the sister Qiang Guangdan had mentioned was actually just the neighbor's daughter. But what shocked me even more was that Qiang Guangdan could conceive of such a venomous plan, trading her for supplies. I couldn't help but shudder. In my past life, if I hadn't run myself ragged to get those last supplies, would I have been the one they were planning to push out? I dared not dwell on the thought. I knew that Qiang Guangdan's mercy was only lip service. In reality, he was capable of anything. In my past life, I was the one who was pushed down the stairs. In this life, I feared his neighbor, sister, would not be able to escape her fate. However, I am no saint. I still vividly remembered what this sister had done to me in my past life. Her suffering at the hands of this family now was simply her reaping what she had sown. I had just turned off the tablet screen when Qiang Guangdan reached out. Wee, are you there? I was so disgusted by his message that I wanted to throw my phone away. I didn't reply, but he proceeded to send several more messages in a row. I miss you so much, Hui. I can't live without you. Can we please start over? It was all just his nonsense, begging me to get back together. I didn't bother reading the rest and just blocked him. I thought that would make him back off, since he wasn't very capable but had an incredibly fragile ego. In the past, I couldn't even let him see me buy anything slightly expensive, or he'd think I was mocking him for not being able to afford it. With his personality, I'd be surprised if he didn't fly into a rage after seeing I'd blocked him. He cared so much about his pride, he would surely never harass me again. Half a month passed in peace. The continuous downpour caused the water level to rise to 1.8 meters, completely submerging the ground floor. Fortunately, we live in a rainy region, so the ground floors are typically uninhabited. Our home was well stocked with supplies, and we also had several dehumidifiers. Plus, Wanwan would occasionally brew dehumidifying tea for us to clear the dampness from our bodies. Aside from being unable to go outside, our lives remained largely unchanged. But I didn't dare let my guard down. After all, the downpour was set to continue for another month. Just as the second month began, the rain intensified. One day, as I was working out on the treadmill, Qiang Guangdan, the man I thought I'd never see again in my life, actually reached out to me. Wee, I'm begging you, please help me. We have nothing left at home. I know it was my fault, but I'm in grave danger now, please save me. Wee, my mom is going to starve if we don't get food soon. You wouldn't just leave us to die, would you? He sent several messages in a row, all of them trying to guilt-trip me. It seemed he was truly at the end of his rope. To stop him from harassing me further, I replied to his message. Don't contact me again. I saw the messages in your family group chat. You truly disgust me. After sending the message, I immediately blocked him on all platforms. The world was finally quiet again. The torrential rain continued for another month. I stayed home with Wanon, and our days passed leisurely. 2 months had passed, and I still hadn't exhausted the mental provisions on my tablet. Perhaps because our building was newer and better equipped, the power and internet were still running normally even after 2 months of downpours. In my past life, I lived in a rental unit with haphazard wiring. The power went out within the first month of the storms. The Wi-Fi was gone, and I couldn't charge my phone. Everyone was bored, and no one knew what was happening in the outside world. The remaining days dragged on, each one feeling like a year. By my count, it was almost the day I had been pushed from the building in my past life. On this day, I felt a persistent unease, my heart pounding in my chest. To keep my mind from racing, I opened a short video app. Unexpectedly, the first thing I saw was a live stream of the local rescue efforts, and by an even greater coincidence, Qiang Guangdan was on the screen. They had no idea they were being live-streamed. They stood on the rooftop of their rental building, drenched to the bone, yet their eyes were filled with hope. The rescue team had arrived. They were going to be saved. Just as everyone was rejoicing, there was a sudden splash. Qiang Guangdan's mother had been pushed off the rooftop by his sister without any warning. The heavy splash sent Qiang Guangdan into a panic. In an instant, the air was filled with shouts and screams. Yet the culprit remained on the rooftop, laughing maniacally, as if killing someone was of no consequence. Watching from my screen, I witnessed the entire event. Beyond my shock, I felt an indescribable sense of glee. I wonder if, when she pushed me in my past life, she ever imagined a day like this would come for her. The rescue team was on a tight schedule with a heavy mission, so they could only focus on evacuating the living first. On the rescue boat, Cheong Guangdan was like a madman, trying to attack his sister. His sister, however, upon realizing they were being live-streamed, deliberately started crying for the camera, recounting how Cheong Guangdan and his mother had forced her to trade her body for supplies. Everyone watching the live stream was stunned. The comments section exploded with people calling Cheong Guangdan and his mother inhuman, with many even saying his mother got what she deserved. Although Cheong Guangdan couldn't see the live comments, he knew this ugly secret couldn't be exposed, so he lunged at his neighbor's sister like a madman. But most discerning viewers could tell something was off. If he didn't have a guilty conscience, why would he immediately resort to violence instead of denying the accusations? The person streaming panicked as well and frantically shut down the broadcast. After the live stream ended, I collapsed into my chair, my racing heart finally starting to calm. I thought to myself, I must have finally passed through this ordeal. The live stream caused a massive uproar, and netizens quickly uncovered the identities of Cheong Guangdan and his neighbor's sister. I submitted the surveillance footage from the past 2 months under my real name. In the end, Cheong Guangdan was put behind bars. The neighbor's sister was diagnosed with psychiatric problems and committed to a mental hospital. After a 2-month absence, the son finally made its long-awaited appearance. Bursts of cheers erupted from the crowds. Since our home was well-stocked with supplies, Wan and I were in no hurry to venture out. Half a month later, everyone's life returned to normal. Wan and I decided to sell our house and move to a place where the springs are warm and the flowers bloom. Being with the family who loves me filled my heart with immense happiness and contentment.